What's up, everyone? Happy Friday. You made it. Pat yourself on the back. It's the first Friday in June. In June, we're halfway through the year, y'all. What is happening? I am so excited. If you are with us today, is it your first time joining? Let me know. If you're a repeat guest, if you're a repeat viewer, we appreciate you coming back and joining in with all the fun. We have so many topics to cover today. I'm a little nervous. We won't get through them all, but I know you want to hear them. And I am so lucky. Today, my guest isn't just one of the cool people that I normally bring on. Today, my guest is actually from one of the sponsors of the show, which I was so fortunate to meet last year at SASTR. I met Khaled last year at SASTR, right, Khaled?
That's right. That's right. It was
Um,
crazy way how we met.
Crazy, but I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to talk about all of the things, and we have so many people watching. We have recruiters, we have sellers, we have job seekers, we have founders, and you've kind of been all of these things, right?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you for having me. And it's I can't believe it's June. When you said that, I was like, oh my God, that's right. Wow.
I know. All right, if you're
But, yeah.
watching, comment and tell us where you're joining from. I am filming in Boca Raton, Florida. I believe you're on the opposite end of the country from me. I didn't ask today. I don't want to assume. Where are you today?
Yeah, I'm actually in Vegas today.
Oh, Vegas is
So
pretty
yeah.
far from me.
Yeah. And we're having a nice over 100 day. I think it's like 104 or something right now. So
Oh, I hope you're inside in the air conditioning.
yeah, oh, big time. Yeah, I can't even step outside for 2 minutes right now.
Absolutely not. My hair would be out here. Y'all,
Yeah.
if you are watching, share the show. Was LinkedIn kind to us today? Did they let you know we were live? We were talking before the show. Sometimes the algorithm pushes all the live events and sometimes it doesn't at all. So help out your friends. You know they want to learn with you. They want to laugh. They want to level up. Share the show. And while you do that, and while you tell us where you're joining us from, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, that takes the rest of the hour. No, okay.
Not that much.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, my name is Khaled. Kind of like the DJ Khaled. Um, so I was born and raised in Egypt. I went to school in Virginia. I was very fortunate to be born in kind of a family of entrepreneurs. After college, started kind of my entrepreneurial career. I'm sure we'll talk about this in a bit, but I've done a bunch of things. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. You get to learn a lot, and there is the version of the story of all the things that worked, and there's the version of the story of nothing worked.
Yeah.
and But yeah, I've been really fortunate in my career as an entrepreneur, and yeah, I've been found my way to San Francisco, and just been there for many years, and I love the space. I love just the energy, and yeah, here we are.
I love it. And you're so right. There's always so many stories, and the ones that worked and the ones that didn't. And it's how we tell those stories that
Exactly.
really explain who we are as humans. I know you and I connected a lot over that in our backgrounds. And y'all, I've definitely had some massive failures in things I've tried to start that did not go so well.
Yeah.
But we learned and we tried again. And I think that's an important thing we're going to talk about in a little bit. Excuse me. But really quick, let's give a quick shout out to Sendoso and Better Leap, our two show sponsors. Thank you so much. It's kind of weird having you here saying that. It's kind of exciting. I love it, but it's just
Yeah.
weird having you right there. I'm
Yes.
gonna let you talk about Better Leap in 1 second, but y'all, we got a giveaway, so you can comment hashtag Sendoso right now to be entered to win today's Char Snacks organic it's like trail mix. I really wanted this one. It's 6 different assortment bags. I want to eat it. If you get it, I want a video of you like throwing the trail mix up in the air and catching it with your mouth and wasting time when you should have been working. But comment Mendoza and you can be entered to win that. You do have to send it to somebody in the United States. If you're not in the United States, you can win, but you have to send it to somebody in the United States. And while you guys are doing that, are you ready to jump into the first topic?
Yeah, let's do it. And I just want to comment Syndosa's really quick. I want to win this. Yeah,
You can go into the chat and comment,
this
comment,
is
comment.
awesome.
Okay, so we're
Very
going
cool.
to talk first about from full-time employee to full-time founder. So I know we'll end with talking about Better Leap and all the things Better Leap does, but talk to people about maybe they're considering doing their own thing and they're considering making that move from employee to founder. What does that feel like? And when you transitioned, what were the things that made you feel like maybe this was the right direction for you?
Yeah, it's such a dear topic to my heart, honestly, because 10 years ago, I would have given a completely different advice than what I would, give right now. But to back up a little bit and just going to talk about my story, kind of being to where I am today. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so I was very fortunate. My father was an entrepreneur, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. My first job was at my dad's bakery, and the irony is, fast forward, I don't actually eat any bread at all right now. But it was such an awesome environment to just get to learn and be close to the day to day of running a business at such a young age. And I also grew up in Egypt, where we grew up in pretty modest circumstances, where really the idea of you getting a job and promoted and kind of continuing this career was not very available. So you kind of had to find your way into something, and by definition, everybody sort of finds their way into entrepreneurship and in one way or another. But then life is all these very discrete moments that somehow they connect together, and it just looks like a very lucky story. And so one of those discrete moments was the move to the US. And we I went to school in Virginia Tech. And going into the school, I did my grad school, human computer interaction. And it was at a time where I don't know, 2005 or something. It's kind of the beginning of iPhone 1. So it was the first time we start to pay attention to user experience and design elements and all that kind of stuff. And I got so attracted into tech and the scale that tech could bring to the world. And even I grew up at this entrepreneurial environment. I didn't think that I would build my own business. And so the natural instinct for me after college was to get a job. And so I applied, I got a job, and it was the first job I got. After college, I worked at a company called Webmail. Webmail got acquired by another company called Rackspace 6 months after I joined. And so Rackspace ended up being this big, massive, when I joined, it was small, 200 people. When I left, there were 4,000 plus, public company. I think they went public at, forget the numbers, maybe like 30-ish billion and so forth. So it was kind of crazy run. And seeing that was the beginning where I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I really want to do this, and I want to experience how to do this, especially in the US. Fundraising, everything around it is very different. And another one of these discrete moments that is just very lucky, the founders of Webmail ended up basically really took me under their wings, and they became my mentors. And which is, at this point, I would say, this is my very first advice: is find mentors before you even do anything. Find mentors. And these two founders, they really helped me with, honestly, I give them credit for everything. Like, all most of my career really started with those two guiding me with the right connections, the right thoughts, they put me in the right places, even at Rackspace, just to learn about different aspects. And at some point, you can prepare all you want, but you just have to jump.
Yep.
So at some point I thought, okay, I kind of, I have these awesome mentors. I figured it out. I've seen the company kind of grow at Rackspace and all that. I should do my own thing. And then quickly reminded with Mike Tyson thing is, everybody has a plan until it gets punched in the face. And so you start the company, and then right away you're like, whoa, this is so different than everything else I looked at.
Yep.
And that's when you realize, okay, 90% of the learning is actually doing it. And so at this point, my second advice is, you know, 90% of it is just going to be when you do it. Just do
Yep.
it. You're going to learn and you're going to find your way through things. And, obviously there is some, financial elements and, backup plans and all the obvious things. And so shouldn't be naive about it. But at the same time, it's really, there is no read this and then build your own company. It's you got to learn. And the best way to learn is to enter and do it.
Let's
Um,
100%.
yeah. So
Were there any
long-winded
moments?
answer, but kind of transitioning from, really trying to build something to being an employee and learning about kind of what's life would look like to actually I realized I really want to build something. And it was just passion. It was just so deep. And I ended up building three, I guess four different companies now. Fortunate exited two of those companies, and I still have two.
I love that. Like the story is incredible. The journey from where you started to where you are now, and I know you exited too. You still have to. You could talk about anyone. I don't care which one, but when you're starting, what was the moments? Because people are gonna be here. What are the moments where you're like, "What did I get myself into?" Right? Like where you really thought maybe you had it figured out, and we know that you are in it. You have to have that figure it out mentality. But we all have that moment where it's like, what am I doing? And what did I get myself into? How do you push past those moments? What advice do you give to people who are at that stage?
Yeah, it was most noticeable to me in the beginning of my career when I guess naively early on, there was that comparison element. And so, a friend of mine, we both went to the same school, graduated, and I went to start my own company. And then that person gets a job at whatever, Google, Apple. And then fast forward a few years, and that person is making 250K, and I'm still making 40K. And you're like, did I do this the right way? Like maybe I should actually go back to, being an employee and all that. And actually, sometimes that is very much the right thing to do. You have to follow your heart a little bit, and that gets countered really quickly for me about with the freedom of being an entrepreneur, being able to, in many ways, just kind of control your own destiny in a way. Control your own time. Your passion, follow your heart. You kind of work for something you really truly believe in, and all that. And again, sometimes that does apply in jobs, and actually, a lot of times it does.
A lot of
But
times.
it's not to the level. Yeah, it's not to the level of kind of you running your own business, but it
Yeah,
also
I think
comes with the responsibility. First time you pay that payroll, you're like, whew, all right.
the responsibility is next level. And I think anytime that you have that bug, right, and you're an entrepreneur, it's in you. You have it or you don't. I think that it's definitely something that's not meant for everyone. There's definitely there's people who should just always be employees, so that's perfectly fine. And
Yep.
listen, like I know there's a lot of things I miss about being an employee. Is there anything that you miss about actually just being an employee?
Uh, I'll think about this question, but one thing I wanted to mention that I think a lot of people, especially now, my advice now would be a little different than 10 years ago. I think one of the things that people need to also learn and think about is what I kind of believe to be multi-career path. And so being an employee does not mean you don't also be an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur does not mean you're running a billion-dollar company. And I think, we always have this kind of default to go to when we say these words, but the skill that you've been working on and you've been hired to do as an employee is a very useful skill for many, many other people. And I think if you package that into any format, whether it's consultancy or educational material or whatever that is, you just became an entrepreneur. And I think you have to understand in the US, our tax code is designed to reward entrepreneurship. And so I think it's really, really important to think, that the government itself is encouraging the entrepreneurship, and there is so many things to help entrepreneurs, whether it's tax benefits or loans or whatnot to support it. So it's not as scary. You just have to learn. It's not as scary as you think it is. And it's also not binary. It's not you're either employee or you're an entrepreneur. I actually believe, I think we will see more and more And there was a trend, there was a study done by Salesforce a few years ago showing there was an increase of almost 15 to 20% increase in the solo entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And so you can imagine, that progression. Fast forward 10 years from now, and you have over half the country are self entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, and I think that's a great thing. It's what the country was in many ways designed on. So yeah, what I miss. I mean, there are definitely a lot of really great things about being an employee. The level of responsibility that you have as an employee, depending on your role, is different than being the founder of the company. And I think sometimes you feel as a founder just there is no breaks, as an employee. And I think that's an important thing from the psychology and mental health and all that. It does take a toll on entrepreneurs. As an employee, I think you can afford these breaks, even mentally. And I think I mentor a lot of founders, and it's tough. It's one of these things where you kind of want to support them, and hey, nothing is life or death, and you gotta take care of your health, but at the same time, right, you gotta keep going.
You can't turn it off when it's your company, when you're the one at the head of the ship. You're it, right? You have to keep going on days when you don't want to, on moments when you have COVID, when it's Friday and the show must go on, right? Like it's just those things. It happens. I've talked about it when you're sick. For me, I'm like, why did I say I'm going to do a show every single Friday with no buffers? What's going on? But I
Yeah.
did it myself and I booked it out, so I show up. And thank you for showing up when you weren't feeling so well today. I really
Yeah, no, of course. And for the audience, I usually have a lot more energy than today. I just woke up not feeling great today. But
I think you have a ton of energy.
thank
And
you.
I think that what you said about it not being one or the other, right? It's binary. You can be an employee and you can be a founder and an entrepreneur. It can be both. I think that's going to be the clip that a lot of people take from this episode is that it can be both. All right, we need to keep moving into the next topic, but I want to talk really quick about Better Leap. This has been your most recent company you've worked on. Can you tell people what that journey's been like?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's and case in point, you end up learning so much on the job. Better Leap was a result, I guess, of all of my career and all the different things that I've built. Is you realize, as cliche as it sounds, everything, the foundation of it all, is the people. When you have that quote unquote dream, team, it's just all of these. We go to the moon. We Who knows if we're gonna make it to Mars, but it's all of that is due to the people that we bring on board to work on the right thing. And there's something magical when you have the right person working on the right thing, and they're just applying their own talent and skill to that thing. It's just when it's no longer a job,
Yep.
and it's phenomenal. So I got attracted to the recruiting space overall because of that magical element. Um, and then we started the company about almost 5 years ago now, maybe 4.5, with actually a completely different idea than what we have today. And case in point, when you start, you just need to start. You're not going to have it all figured out. And I think it's adaptive learning, if you will. And so we started with a different idea. We tried out the product and it did not work well at all. And we went back to the whiteboard and we talked to customers. And Paul Graham from YC is kind of the top incubator for startups. And Paul Graham is a founder, and he has this comment where he says, the best way to figure out what you're building is talk to users and write code. And it starts with talk to users. And so we ended up, and our customer is the recruiter. And so I know a lot of them are probably listening on this. And so we ended up just knocking doors on the recruiters and what problems they're facing, and all of that. And the idea of sourcing and how expensive LinkedIn is, and different industries, that you can't even find the talent on LinkedIn, whether it's healthcare or whatnot. And we realized, okay, I think there is definitely something interesting in the sourcing space. And so we ended up building Better Leap. What we have today is it's an AI powered sourcing platform that allows recruiters to log into the platform and use natural language in addition to booleans and filters to find the top talent that they're really looking for, and try to make this magical moment happen of hiring the right person to work on the right thing.
I love it. It's one of my favorite tools to use, and I just got a new contract, so next week we'll be um,
All
using that
right.
natural language a lot.
That's
Um,
awesome. Very
for
cool.
the new roles I'll be working on. But we got a good comment here from Daniela Hanna. It's so big, it's going to cover us up for a second. But being an entrepreneur, hold on, maybe I can move us. There we go. Being an entrepreneur gives you the freedom to grow as much as you want. Yes, there are no limits to your success. The only person that can hold you down is yourself. That's the part I want to bring up right now. If you're having a moment, if you're having a bad day, if you work for yourself, you got to figure out your headspace. You got to figure out your mental game. Sometimes you got to walk away from it for 5 minutes. Sometimes you got to walk away from it for 24 hours. But you are the person who will hold you back. And you have to recognize when you need moments for yourself. Being an entrepreneur is very hard, it's very difficult. Daniela, you've been doing it for 35 years. Friggin' amazing. Mahalo. That is awesome. But y'all, make sure you're taking care of yourself, especially if you ever try to go down this path of working for yourself, because it isn't something that you can turn off. All right, we're still in the first topic. We're going to jump into topic number 2. This is about recruiting and the reality of the market. Y'all
Yeah.
know? Y'all know? All right, are you ready? What do you think has been the biggest thing that's changed in recruiting? And I'm not even going to say in the last 5 years, in the last 2 years, in the last 1 year. What's the biggest change that we've seen recently?
Yeah, I think it's I just came back from Unleash, the conference, and I think it was the first time, in the beginning a few years ago, there was this whole talk about AI and how do we bring that to the enterprise and what are the recruiting applications for AI, and we obviously, as an AI recruiting platform, we were very, very deep into these conversations. But this year was the first year that it was explicitly mentioned on the stage by some of the big enterprise CHROs, head of recruiting, that AI will replace a lot of the admin work of recruiters. And they weren't shy about saying, I think we're going to shrink our recruiting team and replace them with tools. And there was like an explicit mention of that. The last few years, people were kind of dancing around it a little bit. And this time it was very interesting to see these leaders and coming in with that message, but also they supplemented that message with saying, I think the recruiter role, and I completely agree with this, the recruiter role is going to transition from a recruiter, the way we think of it today, to a talent strategist. And I think it's going to really graduate our thinking from the admin day-to-day work to becoming more of a strategist that helps the organization overall to think through what is the right approach that we should take here. What are the company goals? Just because we're saying we need to hire engineers, is that the right thing that we should do, and we should have all these engineers, and maybe we should have contractors instead of full-time, and maybe we should have this, and maybe. And so like having that dialogue and creating your own frameworks and creating your own strategies is, I think, going to be the new job. And that's the exciting part of it. Like technology comes to help us be way more productive, way more efficient with our time, and work on the things that really matter. And I think coming up with those strategies are the things that really, really matter. Being
Yeah.
able to, just select candidates and send a sequence. I think some tools are going to get better at doing that. And so I think I would say this is probably the biggest change from kind of technology and tools of the market. But I actually think also there's a really interesting situation kind of we're in right now in the labor market, where I do think there is a disconnect between what we're seeing in the jobs reports, between what we're seeing in a lot of these kind of surveys that we're getting in the market, between what we're experiencing. And if you ask a recruiter today, how's the recruiter market, they'd be like, oh my God, it's really tough. You look at the jobs report just came out for May, and it's like, oh, we just added 270,000 jobs, and the hourly rate has increased by X%, or actually I think it's around 4%. And so there is one picture you see from here, but then you talk to the people with the hands-on experience, and you get a very different picture. There is a little bit of disconnect of what's happening, and I think it's interesting. It's to be aware of that as well.
100%. I think that people ask me a lot, Lauren, you're a recruiter. Why is your company called LWL Consulting? And it's because I do a lot of what you talked about. I do a lot of consulting with early startups who need to understand what the hiring plan should look like and when should we bring on people, and having those open dialogues of communication of when is it better to actually hire a contractor? How much money are you saving by not paying for benefits and full-time pay and all of those things, right? Like there's a number of conversations that have to happen. And I think that open communication with outside agency recruiters is getting much better, especially in a lot of the relationships that I'm seeing recently with my new clients. But I think that also the recruiters network and how they've built themselves and their network. And this is, I had a conversation with Will yesterday about brand and why that's so important. And that matters too right now is that a lot of candidates have been burned by bad recruiters and burned in the job search process, and they're exhausted and they're tired and they won't answer the call for anyone and they won't go through any process. And let's be very honest, sometimes a company doesn't have the most attractive interview process.
Yep.
You'd have to convince me to sit through 6 interviews for you. Like you'd have to really convince me. And maybe somebody like me could convince you, but I don't know. I think that's a big reality right now is actually being able to really keep that human element with recruiting with all of the AI aspects.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I think thinking about how to use the tools in your own consultative approach. And I honestly think this consultative approach is really a mindset, like taking that with the customer, but also taking this with the candidates. I think, being able to talk to candidates that like, hey, every candidate, you got to go to this job. And it's probably not true. Um, and you're not doing the right thing here. And I think we just operate from a mindset of fear that I just need to fill the role. And the truth is, you need to operate from a mindset of being a consultative or embracing a consultative approach, because that's what will build your brand. That's what will get people to commit to, hey, because when I work with Lauren, she does the right thing. She finds me the right people. She's not forcing something that should not be happening, and she just cares. And I think that cares. When we hire McKinsey as a consulting firm, we're like, I know they're keeping us in mind. They're really working for us. They're
Right.
helping us. And so I think that's kind of the idea.
Definitely the idea. Keep them in mind, be thoughtful, and don't waste anybody's time. Time is the most valuable resource people have. So if you respect somebody else's time, they will respect you as well. Really quick, this is the half. So comment Sendoso if you would like to win. I'm gonna let you take a quick break. We will see you in just a minute. Don't leave, but take a little breather. We'll see you in just a second. Okay, y'all. Do you know what time it is? Do you watch the show? Do you watch the show? It's time for High Five Friday. This is the part where Michelle Craig comes on and we celebrate all the amazing things that the people in your network have been doing throughout the week. So, what awesome stuff has been happening? What did you guys submit? I'm super excited. I threw in my own high five this week. You guys know I got to get in on the fun. But stay tuned. Give us 1 second. Michelle will be right here.
Hey y'all, happy High Five Friday. Time for the arguably best part of the work week. So, we have some awesome wins and high fives to share with you today. First up, we have Joe Fontana, who I think has submitted at least like 3 or 4 weeks in a row. So, we appreciate you, Joe. He wants to shout out Lauren. Lauren took the time out of her crazy week to listen to me vent, edit my resume while we were talking, and then giving me the straight heart advice I needed to hear. She didn't candy coat anything, and I needed to hear that. Lauren has a high five for Danielle. Danielle creates amazing content and has a post that she rolls out every Friday people should check out. It features jobs that rolled across her feed, including who posted them, as well as talking about the most important events you shouldn't miss. I'm so thankful that she includes the Friday live show in her posts, and I know she's doing amazing things for job seekers. High five, Danielle. Next up, we have Samantha for McKenna. She came in with a mission to find her own business and is doing that and more. Outside of kicking butt on prospecting and deal management, she's always willing to help our team. Thank you for being you. We're not done yet, y'all. Phil for Arturo, he's a wonderful friend who I want to acknowledge in the creative leadership space. And then last but not least, we have Peter for Margaret. I met Margaret through the LinkedIn Audio Room community. She has shown how supportive, kind, and caring she is with people, all of the rooms and events she interacts with. She convinced me to start an audio room, and now we have our Passion of Passions room that we host together. I'm very happy to have met her and that she is in my life. Thank you, everyone who submitted and letting us help celebrate the folks in your network that are making an impact. As always, have an amazing rest of the week and weekend.
Thanks, Michelle.
Bye, Lauren.
Bye. Isn't that just awesome, y'all? I just love the high five part. Like getting to celebrate awesome things. Y'all, how much do you complain throughout the week and how much do you focus on negative stuff? Isn't it just nice to like think about something positive for 2 minutes and all the great things that are happening? You can submit your own high five. We do it every Friday. You can celebrate yourself. You can celebrate other people. Sometimes people celebrate us. That's cool too. But you can literally just come on and do something positive. And when people get a shout out, they don't always know it's coming. I tag them in the morning and I'm like, you should watch the show. I don't really say why. But it's like something that just makes their day. So if you've never done it, I highly suggest it. Michelle, I'm sure will drop the link. And with that, we have 3 more topics to get into in less than 30 minutes and a giveaway. Y'all, what are we going to do? Are you back? What's up, Khaled?
Hi. This is
I just
awesome.
realized what time it was. I was like, we have so much to do. All right. Really quick, I want to call this out. Liz, love you to death, and I know you won't be offended. Make sure you put the hashtag in front of Sendoso so that you're entered to win. Here, you did it right, but I'm just going to use you as an example here. So if you guys just do Sendoso, it won't work. You have to have the hashtag. I want you all to get to win the trail mix. And then, yes, Michelle, get ahead of the crowd and submit your shout out for next week. We only do 5 a week because it just would take up too much time if not. And sometimes people write a whole bunch. We want to get to celebrate the whole thing. So here's the form if you want it. It's in the comments. Did you get a second to go comment Sendoso so that you can win the trail mix?
I haven't yet, but
All right. Let's make sure it happens.
yes.
All right. We're going to jump into topic 3. Are you ready? What
Let's do
the
it.
future holds for recruiters. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the new release of GPT. What is it? 4.0?
Okay.
4.0. So I think that you probably know more about that than me. I've only used it a few times. I'm still paying for GPT-4. So maybe you can explain to me now. Do I still need to be paying for 4? What, like, talk to us, the people who don't know. And then we'll jump into why this matters for recruiters.
Yeah, no, I think so. Quick, background 4.0 is cheaper, faster, and better. It actually is, and so it's fascinating. And I think Sam Altman, founder of OpenAI, CEO of OpenAI, he is recorded on a panel saying that GPT-4 is going. He was apologizing in kind of a joking way, but he was apologizing. He's saying GPT-4 is going to be the dumbest AI model we've ever built. And it's fascinating to just kind of look at everything else that GPT-4 is doing and see the CEO saying, I'm sorry, this is actually the dumbest model we ever built.
So I can
And
stop
then,
paying.
yeah, exactly. And then
As
comes,
I open the browser to stop my subscription while we're live.
yeah, exactly. We're, so 4.0 comes in, it's much faster, much cheaper, different opinions on the different use cases, what it really shines at, what areas it's, maybe a little bit backwards at, and so forth. But I do think, there is a lot of, even on the engineering use case, we actually have a lot of our engineers, and I know companies that I mentor, they sit down, they have their coding window, and then they have GPT right next to it. And so there's like back and forth chat with GPT. It's like it's becoming, a pair programmer that is sitting right next to you all the time. I have GPT on my phone, and I just, it's my default search for anything right now. It's if I have any question, I just like immediately, I just talk to it too, like not even type it. And so, and we're just in the beginning of these models. And so I think, again, Sam Altman was on another panel, and he was saying, if you're designing your startup or your process or approach thinking that this is it and we're done and this AI is great, and you're not thinking that we're continuing to improve it, then whatever you're designing today is just going to be dead in a few months. And because their entire mission is to continue improving these models. And so, which means, what the future holds for recruiters topic is, as you're thinking, it's no longer what you're thinking about, because that changes immediately. So it's like, I can use GPT, Gen AI to generate a job description. Fast forward a few months, and that GPT can just do a whole lot more than that. And you're like, oh, okay, well, let me go back to the drawing board and see what else I could do. And so I think it's just that continuous back and forth to see what we can do with AI. And I think, um, at the risk of kind of selling Better Leap here a little bit, but company platforms like Better Leap, it really, we are at the forefront of what this technology could do, and we try to take it from just the raw technology to bring it to something that's actually useful for the recruiters themselves directly. And I think, following those set of tools, I think would be very, very helpful as recruiters think through what's coming in their career. But stitching this to the prior topic, I do think the career itself is changing. We're entering a very interesting phase in the career itself is changing to become more of a strategist.
It's not like we're just gonna do it one way because it's how it's always been done anymore. That was one of my favorite conversations I had with someone I used to work for. We're having an issue at like a physical location with our neighbor, right? And this was something completely different than what we're talking about, but it goes with the you do things the same way because we've always done it and it was successful at one point. So why would we need to find a new way, right? And why would we need to evolve? And for a long time, people have that mentality and that mindset of, well, the way I'm doing it is fine. It's good enough. Well, at some point, we have to recognize that good enough isn't good enough anymore. And if everybody is good enough, what are we doing to improve? And that's really what the future is holding. And what you're saying is that we have to be willing to evolve with the career, with the job, with where it's going. It's not going to be the same thing it was 10 years ago. And in addition to learning new tech stacks, right, and leaning into AI and all of those kinds of things, what other skills do you think recruiters really need to be leaning into right now so that they can stay relevant in this future market? Where do they need to lean into? What skills, what certifications, what's important?
Yeah. So I think, going back to the point you were saying, talking with Will about brand, I actually think and I was on a podcast with him, and I was saying, I think it's so important for recruiters right now to invest in their brand, like truly. And it's not just that you have a job and hey, I'm good, and this is it. I think it's so important to invest in a brand and who you are and your network, and that really, really matters. And brand is not just the, I'm going to do videos on TikTok. It's just, the brand is a whole other thing. But it's so important to show the world and show the employers and show the candidates who you are. What do you stand for? What do you care about? What are your thoughts about the future of these things? Why would I want to work with you, not her, not him? And I think that really does matter when we find therapists or coaches or purchase products, and we purchase the thing that we remember,
Yep.
and that thing is brand. And Airbnb is Airbnb because of the brand. There was a lot of other competitors, besides Airbnb, but they created a brand, a persona that everybody just was able to stand behind. And I think that's really, really important, um, to think about that. And it's not one of those skills that, you grow up as a recruiter, you end up learning. You don't.
No.
It's a new thing
Yep.
that you need to embrace to your, and you need to start adding to your tool set.
And it's
Um,
uncomfortable at first. I
mhm.
think that's why a lot of people don't want to do it, is that it is uncomfortable. And like you said, showing more of yourself, it does help people realize why they want to work with you. But I think some recruiters are hesitant because it will make some people not want to work with you, right? Let's talk about the flip side. Sometimes building brand, right? I noticed today I lost 7 followers today, and I only noticed that because I'm kind of close to a little pump. Like I happened to notice today, and I was like, okay, whatever. But things like that happen. And when you're building brand and you don't know what you're doing or how to do it, it can get discouraging, and you can worry that you're going to do it the wrong way and you're going to hurt your future prospects. What do you say to those people who are like, I'm too nervous?
Yeah, I would say that is actually what brand is about. Brand is about bringing your tribe together and everybody else that is not part of this tribe away. That is actually the purpose and the point of brand. And there is not a single person that built a brand. Look at, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs. It doesn't really matter. There is all of these kind of personas. Some people love him, some people hate them, some people just would follow every single thing they say, some people like absolutely not and they disagree with everything they say. And but that created their brand. That is actually the point. If they did not do that, we wouldn't be able to know who they are. What do they stand for? Why am I going to buy this product versus that product? Why would I follow this leader versus that leader? And so you almost need to seek it in kind of a weird way. You kind of need to seek losing that 7 followers because you're going to attract another 1,000, and
Yeah,
those are the 1,000 that are going to back you.
100%.
And that's that what continues kind of building your tribe. So
I love it. I did get a comment the other day on one of my posts about it's is not Facebook, and I was just like everybody watching to know that I got a permanent ban from Facebook because somebody hacked my account. So my LinkedIn will become my face. No, I'm just kidding. But I did get a permanent ban from Facebook. I'm trying to fix that. If anybody out there works for Meta, help me out. I'm dealing with all of that in the chat. And within 2 hours, my entire account was gone. So this is me telling all of you turn on two-factor security for your account because that's no fun. And if that happened to my LinkedIn, I would die. Okay, we have two more topics, not enough time. Let's jump into productivity hacks that work. You're a founder, so your life is a little bit different than most. You probably work more hours. Let's be real. I understand that. It's just kind of what I do. Working for yourself, it never ends, and you got to wear more than one hat. So you got to put in extra hours. So let's talk about things you found that really have made your life easier because being a founder is not simple.
yeah. There is whenever I was asked, similar questions like that, I was like, yeah, time management, and I create time boxing, and I actually I'm really good at email management. I do a lot of things email, a lot of things async, and I have a lot of answers like that. And I think a lot of these can, you can Google them and find them. But recently, I've actually have another thing, and it's just been one of those things that is truly it changed my life, and that is find a coach. And I hope he's listening actually. Find a coach that will show you your own operating system, meaning once you know how you operate, what are your triggers? What, you enter a brainstorming session and you're like, we're so not clicking, like something is not working, and you just understand, oh, it's because this person said this word and I was really hung up on it for like the last hour. Once you know that, you're not going to waste that hour in the brainstorming. You're going to reset in 30 seconds and you're going to finish and you accomplish the goal in 5 minutes. There is nothing else that compares to the productivity you gain from knowing yourself and
All right.
knowing
And
how you operate.
is your coach virtual? If somebody needs a coach, can they DM you for a recommendation?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, we meet in person, but yeah, he can do online.
There you go. Awesome. Y'all, it's hard to find the right person. I will say that. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I was told I needed to get a coach. So I got a coach. And I just felt like I was wait. Y'all, if you feel like it's a waste of money, find somebody else. It's just like a therapist. If the first one doesn't work, find someone else. Not
That's
everybody's meant for everybody. And maybe the thing that you need isn't the thing that the therapist can help you with or the thing that the coach can help you with. So if you're trying to find a coach who can do what Khaled said, and your coach is like, we're gonna do, just y'all make sure that it's the right thing for what you need. That's the other thing. I see a lot of people who start something and they're like, well, I started, so I've invested and I have to continue. No, if it's wrong, reset right away, fail fast and reset, do something different. I want to talk about, I know we can talk about time blocking and all of those things, but you're right? Like a lot of those things we can Google, we can just figure out what are like maybe some long-term goals that you have as a founder, and how do you keep the long-term goals in mind while you're doing the day-to-day of the work, right? The busy work.
Yeah, yeah. No, so I think this is really important as the founder and actually as a leader. Your job as a leader is to make sure that everybody remembers that. North Star. Everybody is moving towards the North Star because it's actually really easy to be bogged down with all the day-to-day things, and you forget why we're even doing that, and you kind of go down this rabbit hole. So as a leader, it's really important to kind of always remind the team. One of the things that we did at Better Leap is we have weekly all hands, and it's every single week since we started the company till today. And every single week we bring in the whole company together and we just look at what's our goals, what were, our numbers, our growth goals, what's, what have we accomplished, what we're going to change and modify and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's really important to keep that North Star. And a lot of companies I see fail when they don't actually know their North Star.
Yeah. A lot of companies don't figure it out before they start, and they just start, which I understand. We did say at the beginning of the show, at some point you do have to
Right.
just start. But the
Mhm.
recommendation he gave you before just starting was to find some mentors before you start.
Exactly.
So please remember step 1 before moving on to step 2. If you're following the instructions, you will have screws remaining if you start with step 2. You have to start with step 1.
Exactly. And I think being able to be very clear on what that North Star is another, in many ways, an incredible productivity hack, because without it, you're running, but you don't know where you're running towards. And so you might be running in the wrong direction. And so I always say, this knowing where to run is much more important than running right now. And once you figure out where to run, okay, it's easy. Direction is much more important than velocity. Um,
And if
and
you
that's
know where to run, you know when you're running in the wrong direction. So you know when to change course. I had Chelsea Castle on and she talked about that. And at least if you understand brand and you understand the North Star and you understand all of the things, you know when you're off course. And being
Yep.
able to recognize when you're off course, I think that's another big productivity hack, is that you don't go too far down a rabbit hole that you never needed to be in to begin with.
Yep. Exactly.
Love it. All right, last topic of the day. And this is a big one. I know that I got my start recruiting in SaaS and tech specifically. And the tech industry is different, y'all. The tech industry is different. You've heard me say it on this show before. There's some sassholes out there. And the tech industry, there's some amazing people. And I've met my LinkedIn homies. Y'all know who you are. But there are some people who, man, and coming into it as a recruiter and getting into the game in tech was interesting for me. So I want to talk to you about what makes the tech industry uniquely challenging for recruiters and maybe even founders like you.
Yeah, I think it's first of all, you're so spot on. We have some customers now in like healthcare, we have some customer in construction, we have some customer, and it is so different than, when we talk to like Zoom or somebody. and and it's incredible. It has its own, pros and cons, and we love it. But it's for sure very different. What makes tech a little bit different is because it is very competitive. And I think, we go through these cycles of, is it a candidate market, is it an employer market? And I think for the most part it's been candidate market in tech. And so it's very competitive. You call up the engineer and you're like, why are you talking to me? Or, this. And so it's been very, very competitive. And also it the bull run for tech has been on for a long time. And so a lot of actually the folks in the labor force today in tech, they haven't seen a cycle. They haven't actually seen a downturn before. And
Mm.
so they operate from this kind of abundance and just the bull market of tech. And we've seen a little bit of, that blip in over the last few years, but then it just bounced right back up. So what makes tech so challenging is that it's just so competitive, and it hasn't seen cycles. So a lot of people in the labor force, they're still living under the assumption that this is just going to be great forever. And
In the
so
bubble. In the bubble.
yeah,
Um, so I know when I first started recruiting in tech, I would coach people all day on how to break into tech. And that was a very common topic we heard all the time. How to break into tech, right? Like people sold courses. There were whole cohorts. Like it was a big deal. Some people lost a lot of money paying the wrong people to learn how to break into tech. I want to ask you transparently right now, do you think it's still a good market to try to break into tech?
For the recruiter?
for the recruiter, or maybe for somebody who wants to be in tech who hasn't been in tech. Maybe they're a marketer, maybe they're in sales, but they want to get going in tech. Do you still think it is a good time to try to break into tech?
I do. But is it at the same time, is it the best market? And I actually don't believe so anymore. And I'm in tech, and I like, my entire career, my entire life, and I will never leave tech. But it's one of those things where I see, for example, healthcare. Healthcare is growing very rapidly. Healthcare nurse hiring, just the number of licensed nurses is expected to grow by 34% over the next few years. And it's unreal. Like, I mean, you're almost doubling. You know what I mean? And so it is it's incredible. There are other industries that I think is also just as attractive, if not even more attractive. But I do think tech is for sure it's still growing. The innovation that's happening in the space, I do think there's a lot of consolidation happening in tech. And I think we're going to see more of that continue to happen. More and more, startups are converging into the big 5, 6, 7, 10 companies. And so, what is that going to look like over the market, over the long term on the market? Something to be aware of. But I'm my entire career in tech, and it's hard for me to say it's not good.
What do you think the tech industry will look like in the next 10 years? How many cycles do you think we're going to go through?
Uh, that's a billion-dollar question. It's really hard to know, but I can tell you that the roles are changing. I think even the power shift is happening as well. Like, I think AI models are coding today. AI models are writing code better than senior engineers
Yeah,
today.
I
What does
know.
that mean? And so AI models are writing marketing copy.
Mhm.
AI models are doing customer support. There is actually training completely customer support, and you wouldn't even. My co-founder and Anna, the other day we were talking about she called a support call, and she literally finished the call. She tells me, I wasn't sure if that was AI or a person.
Yeah, you
I'm
don't know
like, oh my
anymore.
god! It doesn't even matter what the right answer is. The fact that you weren't sure
Yep.
is just says the whole thing.
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know, and
And
so.
it's becoming more rampant. I mean, I had the same thing happen when I'm on my chat with Meta and they're trying to help me. And at first I think it's a human, and then it's like the weirdest response ever. And I'm like, maybe this really is AI. I don't know. And I'm like, is this why I can't get a resolution? Because it's a bot? Like, I need a human. Who are you?
Exactly. So the industry is changing very rapidly, and it's not just tech, it's everywhere. Everywhere it really is changing rapidly.
It is everywhere. We were supposed to have another topic, but y'all, there's just no way we're going to hit everything. So I decided this was the last topic. I'm sure we will have, maybe we'll get Anna back on, have you on again later in the year.
Yeah,
Because y'all, tech is rapidly changing, and I'm sure there'll be a ton of new things for us to talk about in 6 months.
would
Don't
love.
forget, this is your very last chance. If you are watching, if you just joined, you can comment hashtag Sendoso. We're about to give away some trail mix. But before we give away some trail mix, I'm gonna have Khaled. Why don't you give us a fun Friday?
All right. So we were talking about this in the beginning of and I've like throughout the whole show, I'm thinking, oh man, what should I say? And so, but one of the craziest thing I've done is, as a founder, sometimes I just have to push myself to take a little bit of a bigger risk in my life, and it just helps me kind of recalibrate things. And one of the craziest things that I've done is, on a whim, I decided I'm just gonna give up all tech for about a week, and I lived with Bedouins in the desert in the middle of Mauritania. If people want to look up where that is on the map, I was literally in the desert, like actual deserts, um, for a whole week with these people that I could barely speak language with him, and it was incredible. I wasn't even
Amazing.
sure if I'm gonna be safe or not, but it was amazing. And some of these people, we think, we have technology, that's for sure, but wow, these people, they have something else. I mean, they can literally look at the skies and they can tell you what time it is. They can. It's fascinating. It's just it was such a great experience. I get, it gives me a lot more perspective of the world because we're just so much into, the San Francisco and the tech and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And this was a drastic, complete difference. There was no electricity. I mean, it's just, it was fascinating for a whole week. It felt like I just teleported in time, really, like 1,000 years ago. It
Well,
was
now,
incredible.
I
Yeah.
have to ask: is it something that you would do like every couple years, or is it something that you were like, I did it once and it was awesome, but I'm good?
I think I did it once and it was awesome and I'm good. I think, there was a few instances where I kind of felt a little unsafe and it was, so I was like,
Right.
yeah, maybe in a different setup I would. This one was just like completely raw setup. Like I just went and I just slept right next to these people. So I was like, all right,
Crazy.
this was very, very raw.
Y'all, that
So
is crazy. Have you ever done anything crazy like that? I have definitely not done anything to that extent. I did jump off a cliff in Curacao. One time I was never afraid of heights before I jumped off a cliff. And the second I jumped off the cliff, my whole life changed. And I am very afraid of heights now. So,
no,
y'all, if you're ever thinking about jumping off a cliff, just be forewarned. Forewarned. Like, it was never an issue for me at all. The second I jumped off that cliff, nope.
well, triggered something.
Oh my gosh, it figured something kind of awful. All right, we're gonna do this giveaway really quick. Let's see who wins some trail mix. Thank you, Sendoso, for sponsoring the show. On your mark. Let's see who is gonna win. I normally double check that you guys can see the screen. You can see the screen. Here we go. Jody, Liz, Phil. Who's it gonna be? Phil.
All
Phil,
right.
you won. Congratulations. And you haven't tuned in a while. And I just saw this awesome comment from you. This was freaking awesome. I think it's freaking awesome that you won, Phil. And thank you for showing up. I'm so happy you could tune in. Jody, thank you as well. And yes, upending yourself is an awesome journey. Khaled's had an awesome journey. I'm just so thankful you came on to talk about it with us today. Any
Thank you.
final words for the people?
Thank you. No, I'm really, really excited to be here and talk to you all. I'm available. You can find me on LinkedIn if you have any questions or anything you want to chat about, anything at all. I genuinely care about connecting with people and having that connection. So definitely feel free to reach out. Happy to help.
He really does genuinely care to the point that he walked, I mean, acres on acres at Saster to find me in front of the food truck when I was hangry. So, y'all, when he says he cares, he really means it.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. This was fun. I hope you all have the best first weekend of June. Go outside. If it's hot, stay in the air conditioning. Do something for yourself. We are more than our jobs, even though our jobs are important. Do something for you today. And you know what I always say? If you didn't like it, don't come back. Bye.